I know the weather's been pretty crazy outside, so we're really grateful that you guys came out. So today, we're here together to connect with each other, inspire each other, and empower each other. So today, our special guest speaker who's going to lead the way for us today, his company is North Pole Hoops. And basically, what he does is he provides opportunities for Canadian student athletes to get the right exposure to sports media, prep schools, NCAA, and the NBA. His company is known by top-level media such as TSN, ESPN, and NBA.com. And he also co-owns the National Preparatory Association, which is a national high school league that caters to elite performance and also providing kids with high academics. So please give me a warm welcome for Elias today. So before we begin on your company, North Pole Hoops, I just wanted to start off with your intentions before you started. Was this something that you wanted to do from the beginning?
I had no idea what I wanted to do when I was. There was actually no intention of starting a business at all. My plan A was to become a teacher. That was my passion. I worked for the city of Mississauga, doing instructional programs in basketball. Pretty much as soon as they would hire me, from 15 till about 20, and it started off as just passion for basketball, passion for teaching and paying it forward, and it all started coming to fruition. The idea of even starting a business when I was traveling to the States to visit my cousins in Michigan. So imagine this: I'm a 16-year-old. I have dreams of playing NCAA basketball. But there isn't a single scout, there isn't a single talent evaluator, nobody is in the vicinity in Canada. The market doesn't even exist. So I go to my cousin's high school game in Haslett, Michigan. There's 1,000 to 1,500 people in the stands at a high school game. We were lucky to get 20 to 25 in our gym. And that's usually just, parents and a couple of classmates. So as a high schooler, we actually started with a company called Crown Magazine. That was the first thing that we did. It was a national Canadian high school basketball magazine, so strictly high school. From there, our partner and I split at the time. He went on to do his own thing. My brother and I started North Pole Hoops together. So it all started with passion, to answer your question. I had no intention of starting a business whatsoever. Plan A was to become a teacher. And then as years went by, I realized, and I think that this is the case with all businesses, is there a niche that you can get to and a problem that you can solve or a space that you can fill? And that's essentially what North Pole Hoops says. We filled a void in the Canadian system. Attention for our student athletes. Up until today in Canadian universities, there's no such thing as a real scholarship. Whereas in the States, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry. They're making money off of these kids' backs. And in this case, we're here looking to provide the opportunity.
So during your time at U of T, did you have the same intention starting North Pole Hoops, or did it change? Was that the tipping point?
No, I think that's when we really started to take it seriously. I played at the University of Toronto. I'm proud to be an alumni from there, from an educational standpoint, but I can't say the same from an athletic standpoint. There's simply no care. They're strictly, academia, and I get it. They're the Harvard, so to speak, of Canada, along with Waterloo, McGill, Dalhousie, and some of the upper echelon universities. But the experience there is what kind of gave me the feel like, okay, something's definitely missing here, because even at that level, there's no scholarship money being awarded. I was in OSAP until years after school, and we knew at that point. My brother was still in high school at the time. My brother is my business partner. He was still in high school, and basically I was working 2 jobs at the time while going to U of T and playing at U of T. When I finished, he was in his 3rd year. I started working construction, and that was because I had made the decision. Okay, I'm not going to do teacher's college. I need to put together a large chunk of cash to make this even viable. So I worked for the city of Mississauga from, after my construction shift. Construction went from 7 to about 3:30, got home, showered, ate, right to the city of Mississauga where I taught programs up until 10:30, and then did it all over again. And that money that we put together went to his travels. So it was a university that time at U of T that really kind of shaped it all.
So how did you know that this is the thing you want to go through? Because there must have been some questions to your head that this might not work. So what motivated you just to keep pushing through it?
So if there was any intention, you mentioned if it might not work, that was not there, and that's why I decided to move forward. If there's any thought ever in an entrepreneur's mind that it might not work, don't do it. Don't even initiate. Sorry, was there a question there?
I said it will not work. You think it will not work, it will not work.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, you're going to go through some tough times, and you'll hear about some of our tough times throughout this conversation. But if there's any inclination that it might not work, don't even pursue. So for me, I never had that state of mind, even when we were going through our tough times. Every company still goes, I'm only 31 years old. I think I'm very fortunate that our company is where it is. We started at when I was 19. So, just the pursuit of excellence, and you just keep going. But I hope that answered that question.
Did you have any help growing the company, or was it just you and your brother?
It started off, my brother and I literally doing everything. I taught myself photography, taught myself videography, so I was editing videos, I was writing the written articles for the website. We were teaching ourselves business we actually used to study at U of T late nights, and my buddy at Ryerson used to come to U of T to study at kind of like a hall. And he flunked out of school. He gave me his business, he was in a business program at Ryerson. He gave me his business textbook, still in shrink wrap, unopened. So now that same book, I still have that book, and I don't think I'll ever throw it away. That same book is now, pages are folded, it's highlighted all over the place. So we literally taught ourselves everything to do with the business. How to create a social media channel, how to build a following, literally everything, you name it, from scratch.
What would you say the most important thing that you self-taught yourself that has helped you with your career path?
I think it would be the financial side. We made a lot of business mistakes, on the financial side, and just bookkeeping and budgeting. That's the biggest one. We lost money. Looking back now, it's actually pissing me off just thinking about it, because I wish I could turn back and know what I know now. But that's what being an entrepreneur is. It's learning from those mistakes. It's as soon as you make one, it's written down. Before we moved into our office, we moved into our first office about 1.5 years ago. We're working from home. We turned my brother's room into the office at home, and it's not a huge room. But what we did is, imagine 4 walls, and all 4 walls are painted with this paint from Home Depot, which anyone can buy. It's whiteboard paint. The whole wall was whiteboard. We wrote down everything. There was a section on the wall that was our mistakes. And every year, we would go down that wall. We'd top the ceiling to the bottom. All the mistakes that we made, we would actually go through it and try to figure out, okay, how can we improve here, 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 and here. And the financial part, that was our biggest one. Eventually, we had to kind of leverage the relationships that we had, and we used family. We used our cousins who were in accounting to kind of show us the ropes and teach us how to use an Excel document. I'm an English and history major. I've never used an Excel document before. So learning formulas, learning the accounting side, learning how to file your taxes, the receipts, how to categorize everything. What do you get back at the end of the year? What percentage of this can I write off? All that kind of stuff. So that was I think our the biggest thing to learn from.
Self-reflection.
Absolutely.
Helps a lot.
Absolutely.
So, what do you think is the biggest impact that basketball can have on these student athletes?
That's a great question. I believe it's a direct reflection of life. And if I didn't believe that, I would have never pursued it as a business. I don't look at this as just basketball. I think this goes for any sport, especially team sports, more than anything. You may look at golf and you'll get a whole bunch of different characteristics in a single individual than you will from a team sport. When you're working with a team, that is a business. Everybody understands that there are role players, that there is one leader on the team, which we're going to listen to his word at the end of the day, whether that's at a professional level, whether it's a general manager, a head coach, and then beneath them, and not necessarily beneath them, with them. That's kind of the mentality we have to have. The moment that and this is another mistake that we made, the moment that we think that someone is beneath and not with, you are shaping their psyche. You are shaping their psyche to think that they don't have upside in your company. So that's something crucial and so important. But yeah, that would be. Did I answer that enough? Do I need to dig into that one a little bit more? So team sport essentially is a direct reflection of life for the reasons that you're gonna learn about camaraderie. You're going to learn about hardship. So let's say a team loses 7 games in a row. Let's say the Toronto Raptors, let's keep it close to home, lose 15 games in a row. The fans are going to go crazy. But imagine what the actual team is feeling. So there's a level of camaraderie on the team. There's a level of perseverance. How are we going to bounce back from this and win the next 5 straight on the road? Then there's, just character, building character. Tough times build character. And the list goes on and on. I mean, I don't want to be vague. I want to dig on the nitty gritty. I think the biggest one is just learning how to work with a group. Learning that one is not above the other. That's the key thing that I would take from basketball and from any team sport.
Okay. How has your exposure for the athletes, not the ones that moved up to the NBA level, how has it helped the other athletes?
Yeah, that's another good one. Anyone familiar with the name Andrew Wiggins by show of hands?
Yeah.
Okay, that's a good chunk. About 50% are familiar with that name. Andrew Wiggins was they were calling him the Michael Jordan of Canadian basketball when he was coming out. Andrew Wiggins put everybody else on blast. And what I mean by that is, when he made it down to West Virginia, where he was at Huntington Prep, so he finished his high school basketball days in Virginia. When the rest of America found out that he was Canadian, everyone woke up. So we have Andrew Wiggins to thank as a business. Because without him making a splash on an international stage even, it wouldn't be possible for our business to grow. It wouldn't be possible for other student athletes to be looked at, because now coaches started hearing and thinking, I gotta book a flight to YYZ. I gotta go see what's going on there. For our industry, I've said this at every level, it's a player-run industry. And that's why I feel like if the kids do well, then we all eat, we all do well. Now there are others in our industry who look at it and have been in it for 10 to 15 years and they are thinking money, 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 money. But if money is the thing that drives you initially, you're not going to make money. You're not. There has to be some sort of deeper root. There has to be, as I mentioned in the beginning, you have to be filling in a problem, filling in a void. And that's what, money is the byproduct of that.
So have you seen a difference in those athletes that just finished the NCAA in their career?
Absolutely. We went from having, in 2013, I think there was 20 to 22. We're in 2019 now, and there's 133 Canadians playing Division I basketball on full scholarships. That's on the men's side. On the ladies' side, there's 107. That's incredible. You know how much money that is in scholarship funds? Money that parents don't have to pay? Kids that don't have to go into life in debt? You know what I mean? It's incredible. I'm gonna say a huge thank you to all the kids, because I think that's that's what drove us as far as we've gotten. And I don't look at it, I still, like, we talk about it within our business and, you know, within our staff. We haven't done anything yet. The industry's an infant still. Having an understanding to, for example, if you are a cell phone company that, you know, you're starting a new cell phone, Huawei wants to jump into the mix. What does Huawei bring to the table that nobody else does as an Android phone? It's the top battery life, it's the premium Android service. But if you are jumping into an industry where there's thousands of companies that already exist, you might want to rethink why you are jumping in. Unless you have something that is absolutely groundbreaking within that industry, you don't jump into an ocean, you know, with a company that has billions of dollars in marketing and research team and all that kind of stuff.
So have you seen any other competitors come into your industry that you're in?
Definitely. We launched in 2011. Since then, there's been 3 or 4 companies that have come about. One of the one that lasted the longest was 2 years. So that kind of speaks on the level of difficulty to get in. Honestly speaking, the only difference between ours and I won't name them, but the companies that came and went, the thing I mentioned earlier, which was if you're chasing money, it's not going to come. Ours was a passion-driven project with the intention of putting people first. I'm a big believer in energy. I'm a big believer in the way that the universe works. Me talking to you right now, you driving this message in your businesses or your potential businesses. I'm a believer of that energy. If you are an entrepreneur that's jumping into a business to compete with somebody on a personal level or to strictly, you know, for the finances, again, it's not going to work. But the people that have come and gone have come in. For example, there was an individual that started his own basketball company, and his dad was the owner at the time of Dr. Scholl's, who we all know, right? The insole company.
Yeah.
His pops gave him $6 million to work with. $6 million to start whatever he wanted. And he failed. How the hell does somebody like that fail? That's my question. You give me $6 million, I'll turn it into $24 million in no time. So I'm coming from a position where I'm a kid that came off, like, my family comes from welfare. I come from an immigrant family coming from Palestine. And if you watch the news at all, you know the situation that's there. How does somebody that comes from below the bottom make it 10, 11 years in the industry and someone with $6 million not know what to do with it? That's a lack of vision, right? That's a lack of foresight. That's a lack of being able to evaluate the industry. Yes, sir.
Yes, for the caters, I did research on your company. But what's your business model and how has it changed since you started?
Excellent. So it's a lot since we started. To put it in layman's terms and as brief as possible, it's a multi-layered system with the intention of taking kids from grade 5 all the way to the NBA. So we run a national circuit of camps. We go to every major market in Canada. We identify, we evaluate, and then we track the progress of those Canadian prospects. We fill up a database, and we rank those kids from 1 to 100 with their strengths, weaknesses, areas of improvement, academic information, contact information for parents. Now, it's killing a bunch of birds with one stone. That data that we're collecting, number one, we're creating revenue by being in all of these places and kids paying for a service to be at camp. Number two, once we collect that data, it's going into a database, and that database is being sold to the coaches at the collegiate level, in the NCAA, in Canadian universities. The most recent business that we opened up is only 3 years old. It's called the National Preparatory Association. It's a nationwide league comprised of private school institutions at the high school level. Once we've identified those kids, we place those kids on different teams. Some of them are on scholarship, some of them paid to be there. The elite level kids are usually scholarship kids at the high school level, getting top of the line academics and receiving top of the line training. That all funnels, so I wish we could show the pyramid here, but that's something we can talk about afterwards as well, and I can maybe send it to you as well. It's all in line to shape them towards the NBA. Anything below the NBA is not a fail. We understand that we see tens of thousands of student athletes, and that 1% is going to the NBA. 1. So where do the rest fall? The rest fall pro teams in Europe, pro teams in Asia, pro teams in Canada now that there's a Canadian professional league. Some of them funnel back into our system. We hire them back as broadcasters, as people in media, as photographers, videographers, writers, reporters. So it's all designed to feed Canada again. I think one of the things that really irks me and ticks me off about Canadians in general is that we look to Big Brother US as a means of getting approval. Like, they're not better than us. I would argue that we are more intelligent, we are healthier, we have a better financial system, our healthcare is better, and I can tell you this because I spend 120 days in the US on a regular basis every year. As soon as you cross the border, there's a level of intelligence that's there. I'm telling you, I'm speaking generally here, but I'm being honest, and I apologize if there's any American citizens in the crowd, but generally speaking, our intellect is a lot higher. So our system is designed to help Canadian kids first, and then once they become adults, to get them back into the system, giving back. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, thank you.
You got it.
So I'd like to open up the floor for anyone in the audience that has a question.
So what did you find this site? I understand your revenue model is partly funded by people paying for camps and partly funded by schools that want you to facilitate getting these kids, right? What happens if you find a kid that's just this Michael Jordan superstar who comes from a background where there's no chance that there's going to be money to pay for a camp?
Those are the kids we're looking for. We're gonna
pay for it.
the schools will pay for it. So a school like Rothsay Netherwood out in New Brunswick. Nobody ever thought that a kid was going to come out of New Brunswick and be on scholarship in the U.S. at the NCAA level. However, Rothsay Netherwood is heavily funded by Irving. Irving is an oil company, multi-billion-dollar company. So Irving feeds into Rothsay. They're considered a booster. So a kid like that who comes from a low-income situation, and that's, again, a part of the reason we started this. Those low-income kids, we're going to take care of those kids first. We're going to place them at schools where they can be on a full scholarship and be in an environment that's conducive to success. A lot of them come from single-parent homes. A lot of them come from very low-income instability, barely have meals on the table. So putting those kids in those situations does wonders. Literally changes lives.
Well, I know
Not to be cliche.
They see in Brampton has a big basketball culture.
Big time.
You know?
Big time. And just food for thought here. If you are from Brampton or from Mississauga or from the GTA, be very, very, very proud. Brampton and Mississauga are the 2 top producers of NBA talent. That's in Canada. We are the top 2 producers of NBA talent as well as NCAA talent. More than 50% comes from Brampton and Mississauga. Those kids are doing awesome stuff and they deserve to be rewarded. They don't have the level of maturity as adults to gauge that these kids are still kids, they're adolescents, their minds are developing. So I would put it more on coaching staff as adults and then the parents. But to deflect that, I think that we need to keep them off of social media as much as possible because that is what's plaguing our adolescents. That's what's plaguing adults as well. If you look on social media now, kids are losing confidence. They're losing confidence if they post something and they don't have enough likes.
Yes.
They take it down. Young ladies are posting, it's all about beauty and glorifying and makeup and some of the things you see, it's just ridiculous. And I look always back to the adults. When I was coming up, my dad was an immigrant parent. He was working a taxi. My mom was taking care of the house.
Exactly.
The streets raised me.
Yes.
But at some point, I had to make a decision and say, this is what I'm coming after. So I believe that the alpha mentality is a very necessary component to both business and sport. I do believe that these kids have to have that cutthroat mentality for the start. And I want to be clear here. They must have that if they are to become elite.
Exactly, but is that the most positive? To me, that's not it. That's not it.
That's kind of where we have to weigh in and think. Is it specific case by case? Is it, if we're talking elite athlete, I believe they have to have it, but with also a sense of humility. But it again goes back to the parent, to the elder.
But it's the one that cut throat that's at the top that's making all the money.
They're the ones making money,
Yeah.
right?
So it's like contradicting yourself.
Yeah,
You can't get away from it.
yeah. I think.
It's business.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Thank you for your question. Yes, sir.
Can you explain what happened to Anthony Bennett? Did you work with him?
Yes, yes. Prime example. I'm so glad you asked that. It's perfect timing. Yes, Doug.
Could you just repeat the question?
Yeah, you want to pass the mic, or maybe just say it louder? Nice catch.
Yeah, hi. I was going to ask, what you're talking about the cutthroat nature of, and Anthony Bennett, he came from Brampton, right?
Yes.
He was drafted #1 overall, but considered the biggest failure in
In the
draft,
history.
In the history. So I was wondering how you could explain that. I mean, he seemed like a pretty nice guy, and I know a few people that know him. I'll leave the question to you now.
Absolutely. So, I'm not going to dive into names because I don't like to badmouth anybody, but it actually goes back to the first question. It was the adults that ruined him. It was people that saw, this is the first time that a Canadian hooper is starting to really get publicity before Andrew Wiggins got drafted, and all people saw in Anthony Bennett, they looked at Anthony Bennett and they saw dollar signs. So they started pushing him to these colleges, pushing him to these different universities, and looking for a check under the table. First, just to get him into college. I'm talking before contracts, before NBA. The influence that was around him the whole time was saying, hey, you're going to the league, don't worry about it. Don't listen to what that guy says. I traveled with Anthony Bennett on a bus. When I traveled with him, I was really the one telling him, Anthony, man, like, you got so much more you need to improve on. The only reason that you're dominating in competition is due to your God-given size, strength, and athleticism. You have so much to work on. Then the adult that was in the car, that was the guardian, you know what he would be telling him? Don't listen to him, don't worry about it, you're going to the league, you're going to the league. So again, it's the adult. Even with the elite, it's the adult. And that's the story of Anthony Bennett and why you kind of went down that route. Yes, ma'am.
So this is kind of a two-part question. One, have you ever thought about going into a different sport, for example, soccer? And the second piece is, what is your, so you, based on a comment that you made before, it sounds like you're almost the only one in the industry right now in Canada. So you're monopolizing the industry. What is your growth strategy? Where are you planning to go next?
Yeah. So the next step for us, I'll answer the second question first, and then I'll jump back to that. The next step for us is to continue to increase our viewership, and that's going to happen very naturally. As I mentioned earlier, our industry is still an infant. It's a baby. It hasn't really exploded yet. People aren't aware to our level as what's going on in Quebec. Quebec is an absolute gold mine waiting to explode with extreme talent. Alberta, same thing. We first must penetrate that to a higher level and start having offices in those regions and start building the team that we have in Mississauga everywhere. That will then turn into another revenue stream on its own. Currently, we're getting about 100,000 viewers on a monthly basis on the website. That website is going to attract advertising dollars. People like Gatorade, Foot Locker, Nike, etc. will want to jump on board, and now that's another revenue stream on its own. So that's kind of a growth development model. And then, forgive me, your first question again?
Have you thought about going into another sport?
Yes, yes, but I don't want to make the same mistake that we made in 2014, which was moving too fast. I think for companies, Companies have to have sustainable growth. You might hear from different potential partners, and you may want to jump all over an opportunity. But that doesn't necessarily mean that, like, if the opportunity looks appetizing at that time, it doesn't necessarily mean that is what's best for your business long term. So you have to kind of really evaluate. Now, if I'm going to jump into another sport, it would be soccer. Soccer is my first love before I got into basketball. But in order to do that, we must first close up any potential of competition coming into our industry, which is basketball. I hope that answers your question. So yes, I want to move into another sport and eventually want to sell what we have here to ESPN and TSN, but in order to do that, we have a lot of work to do. In my opinion, we haven't done anything yet. You know, our staff looks at us and says, every New Year's, we have like a New Year's get-together, New Year's party. Everyone's like, oh, we had such an amazing year, blah, blah, blah. And me and my brother look at each other and we're like, we haven't done anything yet. Like, we're scratching the surface. And they're like, but you said that last year you were scratching the surface. It's like, yeah, because we're still scratching the surface. That's how young of an industry it is. And that's why we can't move into another sport yet.
So I guess that goes right to my next question. How are you growing the culture of basketball in Canada, since it's known as a hockey country?
Mm-hmm. That's been the biggest challenge, is translating viewership and translating people to buy into what we got as a basketball community. Most of the meetings that I walk into now, you know, when I was 25, I wasn't taken as seriously as I am now when I'm 31. I'd walk into a meeting as a 25-year-old with my brother who was 23, and we're sitting in front of two suits between 40 and 55 years old, and guess what? They're hockey heads. Extremely difficult to change their mind. We would walk out of there, bang out a presentation, feel so good about it, and they couldn't give a shit about what we said. We didn't even hear back from them. And I kid you not, even looking back now, I've been clear, I'm open about our mistakes, but I'm telling you, when we walked into those meetings, we banged it out the park. Now when we walk in with that same presentation, people are listening. But it's because of what's happening. It's because of the success of a Jamal Murray. So when you're building culture, culture is the root and the grain that meshes it all together, and that goes for anything. Apple having a premium camera on their phone, they're fitting into the Instagram culture, the picture taking culture, the selfie culture. So being able to dominate a culture is what will help your business ultimately thrive. With regards to Canadian basketball specifically, things such as player rankings and taking care of the elite, so to speak, they were looked down upon when we started, and this goes on Francine? Yes. Francine's point about differentiating between the kids that are just out there, they want to learn, they want to get better, and then those kids that are just ultra competitive and forget everything else. So when we were focusing on all of the elite, it was looked down upon because this is Canada in a nutshell. We're looked at as the super friendly country. We say sorry to everything, and we open doors and say thank you for everything. And yes, we are that. We should be very proud of that. But at the same time, we don't show enough teeth. And what I mean by that is, get competitive. Get competitive, and it's okay to be competitive. You can be competitive in nature and still be a top citizen. Still have a whole bunch of humanity in you to wanna share. And that's the shift in the culture. When we started doing, for example, player rankings, that is the measure of success of the athlete. So for player rankings, we rank kids from 1 to 100. But everybody wanted to treat it like a participation sport. It's not that. You know what I mean? Everyone wants to give a kid a pat on the back for everything. And then when you give kids too many pats on the back, what do? They start to feel like you owe them everything. Try telling kids now no, for the simplest thing. They feel like they earned it before they even open their mouth. And that's what ticks me off about our kids now. I deal with a lot of kids that feel, and their parents too, again, it goes back to the adults. They feel like they're owed a scholarship. One parent calls me the other day, he's like, my kid's ranked number 25, he's way higher than that, he's better than so-and-so. I said, let's call him Mr. Jones. I said, Mr. Jones, your son's ranked number 25 in the entire country. Number one, that's a huge accomplishment and something to be very proud of. Number two, have you seen all 24 that are ahead of him? No, but it doesn't matter. What the hell are you talking about? You haven't seen 24 kids ahead of him and you're telling me that your son's better than them? I have. I've traveled across the country and I've seen them all. So shifting the culture to believe in elite level sports and get rid of the participation and get rid of our Canadianness, so to speak, having that competitive nature is a huge plus for us. That's the reason that people are taking us seriously in the States right now. Is because we're saying that we're better than you guys in this, and this. We won a world championship with RJ Barrett, who's currently at Duke University, who's going to be the number one pick in the NBA draft. This happened in Egypt last year. We won a world championship. So now when I look at America, or I look at an American coach or American citizen, they're talking to me about Canadian basketball, I wear that shit like on my sleeve. I'm proud of it. Jason here, who's our photographer, he was with me in Ohio last night for the past 2 days. We went into the US and put on the best live stream that the US has ever gotten at the amateur level, at the high school level. We know that we are the best live stream available, bar none. Why not be proud of that? Why not show teeth? And I'm not trying to be boastful here. I'm trying to give you an example of the competitiveness, the eliteness, the culture that needs to be built to separate yourself as a business. You must be able to separate yourself as a business through a natural fiber that we call the culture. Every business has an internal culture. You set that, and now the rest of the team understands that if you jump outside of that circle and you let any cancers into that culture, you've broken the weave of the business.
Can you explain more on the Manitoba showcase that started? Is that the first showcase?
Nova Scotia was the first.
Yeah, about Nova Scotia.
Yeah, so Nova Scotians had seen that in Ontario we were showing a lot of love to the Ontario prospects. This was 2012. Next thing you know, we're getting calls from the head of the provincial body, the governing body of basketball in Nova Scotia. And they're saying, hey, we'd love for you guys to come out and host a showcase out here. We believe that there's a ton of kids that deserve that same opportunity. We said, we're absolutely all for it. But as you can understand, as we hope you can understand, we are a very, very young business, and we don't have the finances to fly out our entire team. So what they did is they found accommodations for us. They cut our costs, and we found a way to make it out there. The next thing you know, 3 kids from that camp out of 90-something kids, I believe that was, 3 kids got scholarships. It's a huge win. It's a win for absolutely everybody involved.
Sure.
So, Nova Scotia was our first out of province, and then as soon as that happened, then you had people in British Columbia saying the same thing and saying, hey, we need you guys out here. That's when the development model started, and we said, we're taking this thing coast to coast. We're gonna plant the seed everywhere and work with the right people, the people who are not in it for money first, the people who are gonna put the kids first in every single situation. And that has been, I think, if I'm going to single something out, that has been the number one thing that has led to our success. Work with people who have good intentions. At the end of the day, we're in business. We're in business to make money, absolutely. But if your intentions are not pure and they are not good and positive, it's going to bite you in the ass one day. Somebody's going to come back and something negative is going to happen. I felt it. I felt it when I made mistakes of working with the wrong people, and it has come back. So from that day forward, we vowed to never do anything that goes against the natural grain of our business.
Is this something that the kids can work on? like becoming more open, including each other instead of just working for themselves or just working for the money?
I would think so, yeah. I think it stems from the kids at the elite level getting to know each other. I think we're seeing it at RJ Barrett. I'm going to give you the biggest example. RJ Barrett, again, who's going to be the #1 pick this year, God willing. Him and Zion Williamson is the freakiest athlete we will see for years to come. Those two play with each other. They play on the exact same Duke University team, one of the most historic basketball programs ever. Yet, you'll never watch them and say, one guy's jealous of the other. They work for each other. And the interbreeding of success, this is business in general. So they are in the business of basketball. And they're going to be either #1 or #2 pick. So either way, it's 1 and 2. Either way, they're signing multi-million-dollar contracts. But they have an understanding that in this basketball of business, the only good business is when, let's say, Francine, you mentioned you were in a program teaching music, right?
Yes.
If it makes sense for me and you to work together, and you win right now, but I win later, that's still good business. The best business is when both sides are winning. And to answer your question with regards to kids need to understand that they can play for each other, not with each other, for each other, and have success on all levels. And that goes the same for people in various industries, whether it's electronics, whether that's teaming up with somebody that you never thought you would have teamed up with, whether that's for us now, we are getting into dealing with a lot of artists, musicians. Why? Because we'd like to have them perform at our events. If we can provide them with an avenue for exposure and an avenue to, or I'll give you an even better example. Earlier in November of 2018, we signed a deal with a company called Indochino. Indochino is a men's custom clothing. They make suits. Now you would think, what the hell does suits have to do with basketball? We started thinking the big picture. So I met the CEO at an event similar to this, actually, where I was invited to be the guest speaker, but I was invited to speak to parents and kids, strictly about basketball. The CEO happened to be in the back of the crowd. He came to me after, we spoke, we said, he wants to bridge the gap between suits and basketball. So currently Indochino is, if you go to New York City, New York Yankees Stadium, one of the most famous stadiums of all time, is branded in Indochino everywhere. So they're in baseball and they're in football. They endorse a couple of NFL players. In basketball, what we decided to do is, for the league that I was telling you about earlier, nationwide league, all of our head coaches, it's mandatory for them to dress appropriately. So we said, why don't we get all of our head coaches in Indochino suits? So now everybody is at the top of the line, super fitted, looking sleek. That way when the camera turns to them, they look like $1 million. The Indochino commercial comes on the screen, and that's marketing for them. Now they're diving into a business. They understand that when people use the coupon code HOOPS, that's when they win. That's when they get their sale. Or when a viewer on our live stream clicks on that button, on that Indochino advertisement, that's where they win. So,
is there one specific person that has made the biggest impact on you?
Wow. One person?
Or if you had multiple?
Yeah, there's been a lot. This is going to sound kind of cliche, but I'll give you the cliche answer and then I'll give you somebody else. My father is the biggest one. My father sacrificed, I can't explain to you how much he sacrificed. Like, he believed in us. I'm 5'8" in stature. I have no business being in basketball. On top of that, I'm Palestinian, in a market that is dominated by non-Palestinians. He believed in us to say, and this is looked very frowned upon in the Middle Eastern culture, and probably by a lot of cultures who are in this room right now. to chase a dream that nobody else has done before. This has never been done for Canadian basketball, period. And you guys are going to be the ones to do it? That was his first question. Where are you going to get the funds? He wanted a plan. He wanted a plan of action, and the whole way through, he was checking up on it. And we delivered on that plan, and we executed on everything. I told him where we were going to get the funds from. I told him that I would work 3 jobs to make the money. I told him that we would help however we could in the house. My dad's sacrifice in coming from a war-stricken country, which is still war-stricken, and to say, no, you don't have to go get a job as a teacher. No, you don't have to go get a job as a bank teller, as your prototypical, look at my son as successful jobs. That was a sacrifice in itself, and I'm forever grateful that he let us pursue that, because he could have easily turned it down and just stopped us altogether. But the fact that little ounce of belief told us to just chase it.
Is there one Canadian athlete that has came back to you and said, "You changed my life"? Do you have an example of that?
Yeah, we're working with him currently.
Yeah.
His name is, he's from Brampton. His name is AJ Lawson. He actually lives not too far from here. He plays at the University of South Carolina. He's a freshman right now. He's a kid that played at DeVille Secondary here in Brampton. And the first time I saw him, he was a 9th grader. And nobody cared for him. Nobody cared for him. We specialize in seeking out talent. Seeking something that nobody else sees. So, as a 9th grader, I spoke to his father. I invited him to our camp for free. I said, you have to be at this camp. Because that ounce of belief in him was there, again, the same belief that my father gave to me. You're giving a kid an opportunity. There's 3 types of kids. And entrepreneurs. Okay? And entrepreneurs. There's people that like what they do. There's people that love what they do. And there's people that live what they do. Those are the 3 L's. Those are the 3 L's that lead to a W, lead to a win. AJ Lawson was given an opportunity at our Brampton camp, and he won MVP of that camp. The next thing you know, all of the teams that had previously cut him were after him. And the family came back to us and said, thank you for giving him an opportunity, and we're like this now. And now, he's got this wacky hair, he's at South Carolina, and probably next year he'll be going to the NBA. There's some NBA people who are already talking to us about, drafting him this year. I don't think it's in his best interest. So he'll probably play a second year at South Carolina, and then this goes back to, Miss, your question. The next stage now is marketing the player. So for example, RJ Barrett's going to the draft. Let's get RJ Barrett in an Indochino suit. Let's get AJ Lawson, who has this wacky hair, a deal with Supercuts. That's the next step.
I know we're running out of time right now. Does anyone in the audience have a question? Okay.
Yes, I have a question.
Sure.
Your business focus? Your business focuses on the athletic excellence that you promote. But do you have any part of your program that works on developing the character of that person, the personal development aspect of making that person real? If they make lots of money and they don't have any substance, they will lose that money.
Absolutely. So, yes, the answer to that is yes. We do have a portion that's directly catered to that. So within our camps, it's a 2-day camp. They spend about 19 hours with us overall. Now, one of my jobs at the camp, I transitioned. I'm no longer one of the instructors on the actual basketball side. I deal with the scouting and connecting with the coach as soon as I see something special. So my job is to directly link them to the university coaches. Now, at camp, after lunch each day, on the first day there's a character development seminar. What we do in that is it's a three-pronged process where we enlighten them on how to build their identity. So you have your identity as a prospect, that's everything that you see. So we make a T-chart. Everyone's instructed prior to camp, they are required to bring in a notepad and pen. And they draw a T-chart with three categories. Within that, you have your identity as a prospect, one list. Strengths, weaknesses, areas of improvement, height, physicals, your elite skill set, what is best, what do you do best? Then you go to the next one. Your identity as a student. So you have your identity as a prospect, your identity as a student. What does that include? That is a transcript. So they are required to give us their transcript so we know academically where they stand and which schools I should be talking to for them. Then we're speaking to their teachers. So if I'm dealing like the higher the level, I need to really dig into their character. So I'm actually getting on the phone with their teachers, seeing how they work in group environments, do they attend every class, etc., etc. What is their course load? Are they considering taking a summer school course? This is something that we suggest heavily. Because in order to be that elite level, that just insane kid that wants to focus on the sport, it is absolutely impossible with their current schedules to make it to that level if they do not take a little bit of summer school. Because by taking summer school, it opens up their grade 11 and 12 year with an extra spare in each semester. That extra spare can be used to now strength train, to build their mass, build their body, and also build their game, build their mind. The last category is their identity amongst their peers. So again, on the registration form, they're required to input their social media channels, their Instagram account and their Twitter account. We have a team of interns that goes through all of that. Once they go through all of that, all you need to do is look at 5 of their posts, 5 of their pictures and 5 of their captions. That will tell you what kind of character they have and what's important to them. So yes, absolutely, we focus on that. Yes.
Thanks for the talk. Could you explain about your brother being your partner? So are the family lines separated from business lines? Do you play the older brother card and say, let's go do X, Y, Z?
That has been one of the biggest challenges for us as a business. We are two extremely competitive people, and it's the hardest thing in the world is working with family, because you don't know when to separate the big brother from the younger brother. You don't know when to just shut up and let him do his thing. You disagree on things, but when you're family, you disagree in a different way than when you're a business colleague. You know, it's much louder. It can get brotherly type of violent at times. It can be, it can be misconstrued, and your emotion plays so much more. Whereas with somebody who's not family, there's no emotion. You know what I mean? So it's difficult, but excuse me. I think this has been the year where we've actually drawn the line. It's taken us a while. For us, we have the same circle of friends. We work and live together. We used to travel together, so there was no separation. He's in my face, I'm in his face. We went to the gym together. You know, like, I do a lot of the cooking, so like, he's there, but like, you know, so it's extremely difficult. Working with family is extremely difficult.
I just wanted to ask you, have you leveraged the support that's out there from the municipal level or the provincial level? Like, for example, City of Brampton has seminars, workshops, opportunities to work with different sort of funding agencies to be able to sort of parcel out pieces of it, like maybe search engine optimization, or if we were talking about the tutor for some of the students or something like that. Ontario Centres of Excellence, it's a provincial funding agency. Within that, there's programs that might be of interest to you. Have you been able to look at that? You've just been too busy trying to sort of, get up and running that you haven't really looked to sort of see what sort of free services are out there, or not free, but programs that are out there that can help you grow?
Yeah, awesome question. Thank you for asking that one. I was actually, so we started dabbling in that a few years back, and to be honest with you, I'm just going to be completely frank here, I was discouraged. We filed a bunch of different grants, to the federal grants, provincial as well, and it was discouraging because we were doing something that was absolutely groundbreaking, and with no help. Everything was self-funded. And the people who won those grants, coffee shops, lawn mowing company A, B, and C from lawn mowing. And what I learned was that it sucks that I have to say this, but it's all connections. Like it's somebody that's at the top that was feeding it to somebody else. As if we don't have enough lawn mowing companies, in the GTA alone. As if we don't have enough coffee shops opening up. What makes this coffee shop more interesting than helping thousands of kids a year in an industry that's non-existent before? So to answer your question, I was very discouraged at the first couple of attempts, but we have somebody now who is specifically looking at that, and we're basically providing a commission. If you have time to stick around, I'd love to chat with you a little bit more about that. So pick your
For
brain.
sure, okay.
Thank you for taking my question.
Pleasure.
I have a son, he's 6'4", that plays basketball. He eats, sleep, basketball. It's all about basketball for him. Last year, he played for his college and he was MVP for the college, Athlete of the Year. And for Oka, he was highest scorer. And
Sheridan, Humber, where is he at?
he goes to Canadore, North Bay.
Yeah, OCAA school.
Yes, so he won all these championships, and here he is. He's very frustrated because there's no one to guide him. And he also went to France. He played in France, so he won three-point player in France. He's a shooting guard and small forward. But my frustration is, and his frustration is, here he's very good at basketball. He's winning all these championships, but he has nobody to guide him. As you were saying, they're not recognized in Canada.
Yeah.
He's still interested in pursuing basketball.
As a career, as a playing career.
As a career, yes.
Okay, so that's something I would speak to him on
Personal.
a personal level, on a private level, so we consult for athletes as well.
Okay.
We'll connect.
Appreciate
Yeah,
it.
we'll connect.
Thank you.
Yep, you got it. I don't have a curfew, so we can stay as long as we want, as long as the building doesn't kick us out.
Yeah, so is there a particular mindset that you adhere to that you feel has enhanced your level of success?
Yeah,
And can you share it?
absolutely. So through this whole entrepreneurship journey, when it comes to mindset, I think for those of you who have started a business already, you know that there's going to be lumps in the road. And the biggest thing is how do you overcome, how do you persevere? What drives you to persevere? Do you get up in the morning with a certain level of energy? Do you say, shit, another day of this? I would say the biggest thing to keep you going, is that what you're trying to get out of this? What pushes you to keep going?
No, it's just, I guess it's most important to have what motivates you.
Oh, what motivates me?
Yeah, like what motivates you and what keeps you going, what gets you through obstacles.
Okay, yeah, I think it's the pursuit of excellence. At everything that I do, I'm a competitor. I drive for excellence. I try to do that in my public speaking. I try to do that in my business, in the way that I treat people, in the way that I treat our staff, in the way that I eat. I used to have a kind of a hot temper. I changed it up. I never thought that it would result in this, but I took meat out of my diet completely about 1.5 years ago, and my energy changed. The way that I woke up changed. So just finding things that work for you specifically, because we are all extremely different, come from different walks of life, different types of work. For me, it's pursuit of excellence. It's like being the best at what I do. I don't care what anybody else thinks of me, but I pursue excellence on a daily basis, but to the moment.
Also, is there any advice that you can give to aspiring entrepreneurs?
There's a bunch. If I'm going to give a general statement, it's to, if you are becoming an entrepreneur, opening up a business, or thinking about opening up a business, find a niche. Find something that you are, number one, passionate about, that nobody else has filled already. And if they have already filled it, and there's others that are already existent, what makes you different? What value does your product or your service or whatever you bring to the table that makes you different from everybody else? Because that is what's going to make your business successful. We are in a day and age where e-commerce is taking over, right? Everything is online businesses. So people are popping up with businesses all over the place, right? People have Instagram accounts that are businesses. So find something that separates you from the rest of the pack.
There's a question right here. I just want to go back to something that you had said earlier, and that was, and I think there are more than a few of us in this room that agree with your point. When you talked about this pervasive, and I'm going to say quite toxic, Canadian mentality of pride in mediocrity. What do you do to sort of counteract that? I'm sure that when you talk about your business model, you talk about the vision, not only that you have for yourself, for your organization, I guess you also create that vision for your recruits or the parents thereof.
Everyone involved. Everyone involved. So there was a lot there. Keep the mic for a second. Keep the mic for a second. There's a lot there. What is the actual? What is the question exactly?
Okay. When you come across somebody who has a very sort of mediocre sort of
okay,
yeah, right. But there might be something there that you see that goes deeper beyond that surface level mediocrity. What do you do to get past that?
Avoid it at all costs.
Okay.
Do not do business with people who do a mediocre job. People who are not pursuing, if they are not as passionate about what they do as you are about what you do, you turn hard right and run. Those people they're draining our economy, they're draining our energy, and they are not susceptible to growth, period. So with regards to mediocrity and dealing with that toxic, it's find people who are like-minded. Find people who are willing to push the bar. That's what we say in basketball. Are you willing to push the bar? And then when you reach the bar, are you willing to push it again? That eliminates mediocrity.
You're not going to just recruit everybody just because they're available. You're going to recruit all the best people that you can find.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And then create a competitive advantage. Put people on our team. We have a team of interns right now who are coming in from Sheridan, Humber, and all over the place from the media realm. We're creating a competitive environment for them because they have to understand that mediocrity is not welcomed here, and that we all arrive at a certain time and we all leave at a certain time. And even when we are at work, we are working in a certain fashion. You are not taking an extra 15, 20 minutes for lunch. You know what I mean? So some people, like for me, it's probably, some may say this is wrong to do because you're not balanced. I eat and work at the same time. I don't take an hour for lunch. I have my balance when I go to the gym. I get balance out of cooking a meal because I find that fun. So yeah. Cliff, are we still going in a circle?
Yeah, I just wanted the people
Sure.
to have questions.
Yes, sir.
There you go, sir.
Bring the mic over to you.
What's your basketball skills?
As a player? Yes. I was a three-point shooter. I still am a three-point shooter. I'm actually leaving here to go to a basketball game, men's league game. So that would be I was a point guard. I would facilitate and pass. I had a really good first step, so I would blow by my defender, and then when the defense collapsed, I would find the corners. I would pitch out and pass.
Great. My son is the same age as you, and he played basketball. He's now a chiropractor.
Amazing. I love it.
Miss, you still have a question?
So I have two quick ones.
Sure.
Are you an agent for these basketball players once they hit the NBA? Are you their agent?
Not yet. There's a conflict of interest with that. At the amateur level, we are not allowed to be their agent. We are not allowed to collect money. However, we do have friends in high places who are agents, who are the agents of LeBron James, who are the agents of Steve Nash when he was playing. So we can refer. We can refer to people who are agents. Now, there's a lot of parents currently that are telling me that, hey, I don't want to work with somebody else. I trust you.
Yeah.
Like, you be the agent. And as much as I would love to be, we have so much work to do still. We're still growing the
The trust, because if you're looking after these kids when they're not making money, then everybody's going to jump on them. The other question I have is, what did you see in this kid that everybody else didn't see? The one that you said, the grade 9, that everybody was cutting.
Yeah, so evaluating potential is a very difficult skill. This kid was 6'3" at the time, but he was extremely skinny, like skin and bone. He was on the bench because he was a 9th grader playing on a senior team with grade 12s. He was on the bench, but every time I looked over at the bench, so someone's getting subbed out, he gets off, he goes and gets him 5 and goes and sits back down. Everybody else is just standing there like this, like, I'm not getting my minutes. You know, you can just see it on their face. He was more than happy to give the high five. He would give a guy a water bottle. You know what I mean? And then when he did get on the court, this is how I evaluate prospects. Now you get your chance. You're on the court. Are you maximizing every freaking second while you're on the court? Are you communicating all the time? Are you running back on defense? If you defend, you're a high-level player. That's how I evaluate. Are you creating the right play? Are you playing unselfish? Because some kids, they jump into the game, they know that they only have 3 minutes probably. In those 3 minutes, they're going to be as selfish as possible. And then they're off. And then later, the coach is going to get into an argument with the mom or dad and say, how come you only played my son for 3 minutes?
Because he wouldn't pass. He wouldn't get to that shot.
Yeah.
He was just interested in being a glory hog.
So AJ, in this case, went back to the gentleman that asked the question about character. He showed character. And that goes a long way. It goes a very long way. If you can evaluate character at a very young age, and if you can evaluate character in a potential employee, that's huge. We have I'm going to give you some private information right now. We have a guy who left us. Or better yet, we have somebody who used to work for us a couple of years ago who's currently suing us. He was given everything that he wanted. He's no longer in the picture. What does he want? Low character.
So, what were AJ's parents like?
Very vibrant. The dad is from South Carolina. He's American, mom's Canadian. Ultra supportive. Ultra. At every single game that they can get to. And what makes it easy to work with them is they're realistic. They're not trying to rush the process. They're not telling AJ that he's better than everybody. He used to have a 30-point game, which is huge for a kid, 10th, 11th grade. He'd finish with that game, and dad would be cussing him out. Like, you didn't do this on that play. Dude, I'm like, sir, calm down. He just had 30 points. Like, you can talk to him about it after, but like, he's cussing him out. And that shows a high level of accountability. And we talked about earlier, you asked about sport, or basketball specifically, and the reflection to life. Accountability is huge. Accountability is huge in business. There's a lot of employees that, they do something wrong, but they don't admit it. You know that they did it. They don't want to admit it because they have a hard time holding themselves accountable. And if there's no accountability, my brother always says this, there's no accountability, there's no growth. And people who are not willing to grow within your business are actually going to end up cancerous down the road. Yes, sir?
Yeah, so earlier you said you had to sit down with your brother and those 2 suits. I just wanted to understand, how were you able to get that opportunity to pitch to them? So meaning going back in the early stages of your business, like what sort of marketing strategies did you use to even get like a reply back from someone through email, or even having the opportunity to pitch what you offered?
Yeah, so we drove to, this was at a time where like our expenses were high and we didn't have money to really do anything. The sacrifice part came into it. We drove to Ottawa, we didn't have enough money for a hotel, we slept in the car, but we had an LA Fitness membership. So we went and showered at LA Fitness, got back, went to the guy's office, knocked on his secretary's door, said, hey, we're here for a meeting. We had no meeting scheduled. There was no meeting. We drove to Ottawa on a whim, hoping that when we arrived, we're going to get the meeting. So what he said is, actually my schedule was loaded. Completely understand. Is there a better time? We drove our ass back home, and we set up a meeting, and then drove back. You got to be willing to sacrifice. There was a lot of those nights. I would drive to Kentucky. I would drive to Kentucky with our videographer. We had one of those plugins, you know, where you plug in the adapter. So it creates a power source. From that power source, he'd plug in his laptop. He's editing on the way home. Or, you know, we're parked and we're editing. Sleep in the car. Do the same thing the next day. Drive back. There's the sacrifice part even to setting up a meeting. Like, you got to be willing to do things that are crazy, things that are outside of the norm. Yes, sir.
Good evening. Thank you for coming out here and taking our questions.
My pleasure.
My question is, what has been the biggest influence in your life and why?
Biggest influence in my life? It comes back to family, man. It comes back to family. Our business is all built on the basis of a family. We treat the people that we work with like family. I have this, like, I don't know what it is. I can't explain it to you in words, but I have this, like, something burns here every day when I wake up. And I have a passion for life and wanting to help the next generation. That's why I wanted to become a teacher to begin with. When I understood that I could actually do it through basketball, I dropped out like a sack of bricks and I jumped in here. It's a passion for just life, for living, and family, building a family one day. You know, there's been personal sacrifice as well. You know, I was almost engaged, but the person that I was with at the time didn't understand what I had to do in order to move forward. So we had to split. But again, it comes back down to family. Every situation I'm telling you about, team is a family. Business should be a family. This in itself, we are a human family, right? I care that, you know, the reason when Cliff mentioned, like, hey, do you want to do this? I said 100%. If one person from this whole group takes something and is successful as a result, like, that's a win. So, I hope that answers your question. There isn't necessarily one thing.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
And if you were to go back and do something differently, what would be that one thing you would do differently?
I would do a lot of things differently. I would do a lot of things differently. But if there was one thing,
Not hire the guy that's doing it.
no, I learned from that. But yeah, no, but I'm actually glad that happened. There's one thing different. I would have, instead of myself writing the contract, I would have put the money up front, knowing that yes, it's going to cost me a few $1,000s now, but I would have reaped the benefits before. Just doing things like, in business, try to make the minimal amount of mistakes. Because once you make them, yes, you can say, oh, we can always learn from our mistakes, right? We always do. But why make it to begin with? That's my thought process now. It's like, when I'm about to make a mistake, or I feel like something isn't 100%, why take the risk on potentially making that mistake? Study it, especially if it's a major piece of the business. Yes, in the back.
Thank you for the great talk. I am very impressed and, actually quite inspired.
My pleasure.
Thank you. So I had a question. Something that specifically stood out to me were your values, exactly the values, where you're coming from, the impact you're here to make with your business, and just with the presence that you have. And my question was about community partners. What kind of community partners do you work with in order to drive that impact? And one of the reasons I'm asking right now is just as we were talking, something that sort of perked up like a little light bulb in my head was I met somebody last week in Toronto who is currently working on setting up a sports camp for 8,000 kids completely free of charge. He wants to bring these kids so that they can have access to sports and sports camps, even if they cannot afford it. And I'm wondering, how would you work with a partner like that, or if you would even be interested in?
That would definitely be something I'd be interested in. As we've learned from this conversation, we are about kids first. I was once in their shoes, and that's what drove the inspiration to want to do what we're doing. Some of the community partners that we are entering into close partnership with is Sick Kids. Sick Kids is one of the biggest ones because we want to pursue that one, not because, yes, it makes the company look good, but that's not the main reason. The main reason is to let the other kids who are fortunate, who don't have health issues, understand life and just how much to value it. On a corporate level, a company that I can't name the company yet because it's not official. But one company that we are going to be working with is very focused on green energy and helping the world understand green energy as opposed to petroleum. The way I look at it, I'm huge on energy. Just energy in this room, energy as I walk out. So when we look at green energy, that doesn't affect just that company and us. That affects the next few generations. I'm not sure how many of us in here believe in global warming, whether it's happening or not. I believe that Trump is an idiot, and he's. Thank you.
You might not want to say that when you cross the border, they might not let you.
Yeah, no, I'm careful. But for someone who doesn't believe that our ice caps are actually melting and affecting all of us, and that's why green is important. Because it's affecting our food, it's affecting the type of, if you are a meat eater, not using green energy affects the type of meat that you consume. And the type of meat that you consume affects the way that your body functions, your health and your thinking, and how the level at which your brain is operating at. It goes to that level. Or the production of plastic, for example. There's a lot of everything is petroleum run, gas run. The world has the ability right now, to give us free energy from the sun. And we as a humanity are not using that yet. How stupid are we? And not us, but like the powers that be, the major corporations, the governments, etc. So to me, when we're talking about community involvement, it's about partnering with companies like that are willing to wake up and make a global change. Helping people understand what's really going on in this world. Because we know that the secrets that are, below these tables and all that, it's a lot of head honchos making decisions and people like us not reaping benefits. In fact, they're hurting us. So, on a community level, those are the type of companies that we would be working with. Yes, camps, I would be interested in speaking to whoever that is. And on a corporate level, green. Go green.
It's true fitness and health going together.
Hand in hand.
And if we're not physically eating the right things, like you said, and we're chemicals, people not achieve in form of excellence. So I commend you on that.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to take a few more questions and we got wrapping up. So this row right here.
You mentioned earlier about working with artists and musicians. I just wanted to know, what was the process like for you to select a certain artist or musician to work with?
Okay. Sorry, did I cut you off? The question? If you have, continue the question if there's one.
No, that's it. That's perfect.
Okay. So we're actually still in the process. There's a company called X House, downtown Toronto, who is a partner with Stack. Stack is this card that you can download on your phone. It's basically like a no-fee credit card. someone who we used to work with, who's still involved in our business, a fellow by the name of Jeff. He is now working with a company called Stack. Stack and X House ran an event together. X House is basically a symposium of finding Toronto's talent, or the GTA's talent. The Weekend, the artist The Weekend, funds that whole project. So we are in line trying to work with Stack and that company to find the talent, put them on the stage that they need to be at, and go from there. You got it?
Right. Is there a question? Do last one.
So I see your involvement with bringing them to universities. What about our universities? So our top universities, we have 5, and they recently, last year, faced Duke. A few of them, Duke had an exhibition. So how is that being pushed? Our college or university, some of our athletes are at that level, like NCAA, but we have never seen that. Only a few have been featured on Rogers Local, a few highlights, a few times over the years, but it hasn't gone to that level. So are you working with local universities, and are you working with, say, NBL or the one that's out west in Vancouver? These are the other leagues that are existing. To grow them a lot of these guys can grow to either a D-League status or an Olympic status or a FIBA status or NBA. Like you're saying, not all of them even will make it to that level either. Right? So I see how you're branching them to bring them back into the system. So you get to see the opportunity that we have even locally across the border.
Absolutely, and we are working with Canadian universities as well. What we understand is that there's a very small percentage, a very, very small percentage of kids that are even of the elite level to go to the South. So basically, if you look at our lists, from 1 to 50, those are usually the NCAA caliber guys. From 50 to 150, there's 100 guys that end up at universities and colleges in Canada, whether at the U Sports level or at the CCAA level, such as the lady in the back whose son just finished. So we work with those guys directly as well. And the way that I would like to position it is, I like pie. I like raspberry pie, I like apple pie, I like blueberry pie. And as a business, as an entrepreneur, have your hand in every pie. Be willing to dabble. So for us, we work with the U Sports because it's a part of shaping the culture. You mentioned culture, earlier on. Shaping the culture means that we have to work inside out, not outside in. So we have the credibility in the US now. We have the credibility in Canada, and now Canadian coaches are actually starting to see value in things such as a scouting service. Coaches in the past used to spend their own dollar and travel, spend $700 on a flight, and traveling in Canada is a lot more expensive than traveling to the States. So if you're coming from BC, you're paying $700 for your flight, then you're paying hotel, then you're paying food, you're taking the kid out and his family for dinner. Now you're up to $1,200 if you're a university coach from Canada, from the West. Well, why not pay $600 for our service, and you have access to the whole country, and you're recruiting everybody. So a part of it is, yes, we are dabbling in with those different leagues, the NBL and elsewhere, and with the Canadian universities, but it's also on the Canadian universities to wake up and say, yeah, I'm willing to put $600 down now because this will pay off.
They do have a talent. Carlton is one of our best, or Concord, compared to NCAA or Gill. These are our elite universities.
Is it a coincidence that Carleton is one of our first clients?
A lot of players don't know that. When you do go look at things like, Carlton is. If you're a ball player, you should be, hey, we have guys. They're like our team. You don't realize that. Once you're in the ball game, you actually respect what's going on at home.
True.
A lot of guys at home, they don't realize how to, because our team. It's not just jump out. You're really in it. You appreciate what's going on.
No, you're right.
Honestly, from the athlete, just all sports, music, everything. It's just how the game, you have to support it, and we can grow it.
I agree with you, man. I agree with you. That's like Drake.
Our people is noticed, nobody knows.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
I'm hoping you'll consider personal development for those parents.
If they're willing.
that business book from U of T? Do you happen to know the title? I know it's still.
Yeah, it's Business and Marketing by someone, last name Rogers. I believe there's a building app. It might be Ted Rogers. It was somebody in business. Yeah, Rogers is definitely the last name on there. He's one of the contributors.
And will you, I know you're talking about different industries or different sports, would you consider working with disabled athletes?
That's a tough one. I don't know if our business is the best fit for it. Just because we're not operating and working with leagues that that could help in that scenario. I would love to at least point someone in the right direction. I know that we have wheelchair basketball leagues in Canada, and there's different avenues for disabled kids to be able to participate. For us, it's difficult, to be quite frank. I don't think it's a direction, to be honest, that we would head in, but I would point someone in the right direction if they had a child that wanted to do that.
I know there's an abilities expo coming out in April as well.
Yes, I did hear about that. We got an email last.
Hockey and presidents.
And it's an amazing initiative. That's something that I think our high school kids need to be involved in, because as much value as there is in someone who doesn't have their full abilities to participate in a sport, I find it just as valuable, and not to be please don't take this hypersensitive. But I think it's even more important that the kids that do have all their limbs and all their abilities participate in, whether they coach at that, whether they help, whether they cheer on. Our kids are just, these days, like, I'm only 31 years old, I understand, I'm talking as kids, but our teenagers these days, they didn't grow up the same way we grew up. Everything is easy now. Everything is instant. There's a really annoying age to deal with, and that's why I would wish that they would work with these kind of initiatives.
Well, the kids are very inspirational as well.
Yes, they are.
Congratulations.
Thank you for being part of this. Thank you everybody for coming through.
The last question here.
Yes, sir.
Do you mind if I have an observation and follow it up with a question?
Please do.
I'm 57 years old and jaded, but when I was 31, I was Jerry knows me from We Love Tennis. I have a tennis shop, and I was a national coach coaching kids. We used to recruit kids on their performances, and I was like you. I was full of piss and vinegar. I had a lot of ideas and energy, and I guess I was going to ask you, what is your 10-year or your 20-year plan? Do you have any kind of futuristic goals or vision moving forward? Because through my experiences, I knew life is, I wanted to be a national coach, but I ended up owning a retail shop, which I never foresaw. But anyway, just wondering if you have planned that out in 10 years, 20 years.
Absolutely.
Because I had it, and life took me that way.
Yeah, and I think there's some businesses that you can go with the flow, and the momentum changes based off of the direction, based off of population, based off of demographic. But with us, we have to have a 10-year plan. I don't think that we're successful if we don't. Our plan is 10 years, and we understand that the population of Canada right now is about roughly 35 to 36 million. The whole state of California is that. But we understand that if the population of California is 35 million, and they on their own can have an industry, and that industry that's there is $1 billion one, then we must first wait for the population to catch up in Canada. And that's not estimated to get to 100 million until, I believe, the year 2040 or something like that. And if that's the case, then our plan is to just, like as I mentioned earlier, dissect what is working in Ontario and where the general population consumes our information, and then copy and paste.
All right, we're just gonna wrap up the,
Yeah,
sorry.
So 10-year plan would be to get to a point where we can sell this business, and then I can move on to be the agent, really taking care of these kids. It makes sense because right now I have the relationships. Those kids in 10 years are going to be looking for pro contracts still, and I think that we've built a reputation that's, that has a moral compass. That's one way of putting it. The compass is always north. We're North Pole Loops. We're up. We're looking ahead. So that's 10 years.